Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of our Justice and Peace's guest speaker series. Today's guest is the founder of Pre-Law Shadowers, and she just completed her first year studies there, studying majoring in political science at the University of Toronto, I believe, right? And thank you so much, Ayisha, Jilani here for joining us today. Pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel so honored to be here.
Now, Aisha, perhaps maybe you can start by telling us about where your interest is in getting involved in law and studying law, and a little bit more about yourself, and you can lead into what Pre-Law Shadowers is.
Okay, sure. So I think with law, I've always had an interest. I know that when I was younger, so I actually grew up in the Middle East. I was born and raised in a really tiny country called Qatar, if you guys have heard of that. And over there, I was part of a lot of mock debate competitions. And it used to be something that I wasn't really sure I was interested in, but I ended up loving it. And I also did really well in it. And I remember I had this one teacher who I think this is someone that definitely has kind of kickstarted my interest in law and politics in general. But his name was Mr. John. I wish I could be in contact with him again. I have no idea where he is today. But if I ever got to meet him again, I would thank him just because he told me, I remember one day where, oh, you could be a really good lawyer. And I think I was maybe 13. I didn't really know what a lawyer was. I just thought it sounded cool. And then from that day on, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a lawyer. And I told family and friends, I said, I'm going to go to law school. I'm going to do this, even though I had no clue what law school really was. I didn't know how long it was. I thought it was like right after high school. So it was a very like uneducated idea of my future, but I just knew that I was interested in it. And then the older that I got, and of course, when you're in high school and you take certain courses, you kind of find out what you're good at and what you're not good at, or what you're comfortable with and what you enjoy. And I always loved my history courses, my politics courses, and especially my law courses in grade 11 and grade 12. It was one of those courses where I didn't mind studying for hours and hours. I didn't mind making so many notes and memorizing things. I think the first thing I ever memorized was like the Charter of Rights, and I really enjoyed that. And then I knew that it was something where I was getting the grades. I was interested. I loved going to class. I loved the discussions. All my teachers were amazing. And then it just became something that was kind of set in stone in my brain where I was like, I know this is something that I would enjoy. And maybe not a lawyer specifically. There's so many other legal professions, in the field, but definitely law is an interest that I would like to pursue and research on even more. And then when it came to picking, what I was going to major in, I chose political science and then my minor in public law because I looked at the courses that I would be taking throughout my bachelor's degree, and it was everything that I think would be something that I would be interested in. And like I said, that I would enjoy. And so that's kind of where I am today. My journey is quite small because I just completed my first year. But I'm really excited on, what ends up happening for me and kind of what is in store for me. I know that I'm someone that has the passion. I know now I've done my research, and part of why I started this organization is to help myself and other students. So I hope that this interest in law takes me further than where I am today.
So perhaps maybe we can talk a little bit more about Pre-Law Shadowers there, and where you kind of got this idea, and what have you done so far, and what are the goals there for your organization?
Perfect. Yeah. So the idea of where this started, I wish I had like a really profound kind of starting story of how I founded this. But the way it actually began is I had a friend who's doing dental. They're going to go into dentistry, and they're doing like virtual dental shadowing sessions. And I remember thinking, wow, this is a really great idea. I'm going to go look for something for myself because I would love to do something virtual where I can get to meet a lawyer. And I searched on Instagram, I searched on Facebook, I searched on a bunch of university organizations, and I couldn't find anything that was like this. And just kind of like as a joke or just as something casual, I said, oh, what if I founded something like this? Because I can't find anything. What if I just start my own? I didn't mean it. And then I didn't realize I went to bed that night, and as cliche as this sounds, I guess I was dreaming about it because as soon as I woke up, this was the only thing I could think of. And I remember I think I had my midterms at the time, but like in between studying, I would go and start working on a logo. But then I would be like, no, I'm just messing around. Like, I'm just, experimenting. I'm just seeing, I'm not actually going to go ahead with this. And then that logo turned into, coming up with a name. And then I made an Instagram account, but I kept everything private because I just didn't believe in it. And I just really thought it's very outside of my comfort zone. Even being here today is very outside of my comfort zone. And I wouldn't describe myself as an extroverted out there person. So founding something like this is not like me. And I don't know what happened, but I think it's genuinely because of the support system that I have, the friends and family that I have that kept telling me that they believe in me. That I just one day I was like, okay, I'm going to make this account public on Instagram now. And I'm going to follow a bunch of lawyers and I'm just going to see where that takes me. And I think on the first day, within like a couple hours, we hit like 600, 700 followers. And that's, you know, through the fact that social media is amazing. And being a student, there's so many student group chats. And I remember like being so overwhelmed and happy with the response. The fact that, you know, a couple of days ago, I was sitting there thinking, would people even want to do something like this? Would they even be interested? And then fast forward a few days later and it's kicking off so quickly. And so that's kind of the story of how it started. It was more something I was looking for myself. I saw an opening for it. And, you know, if no one's going to open it, then why not myself? I just took like a lot of push and a lot of support for me to go ahead and do that. And in terms of why I started this and kind of what my goal was, like I said, I was looking for these kind of opportunities. And as a pre-law student myself, yes, I have the interest and the passion, but the one thing that I really need is the knowledge. Like I would love to get more insight into what do lawyers actually do? You know, like what is their day-to-day responsibilities? What are the different fields of law? What is their career really like? And what was their law school experience like? And so these are all these questions that pre-law students always have. And sometimes it can be really scary to approach a lawyer or approach a paralegal or anyone on your own. Because you just naturally feel like, oh, what if they think I'm stupid? Or what if, but you know, they're like professionals and, you know, they're so much older and they're such busy people. And these are all thoughts that I've had. And I know my other friends who are pre-law have also had. And I just thought, if we started something like this, where you don't have to worry about contacting them yourselves, we'll bring them onto the page for you. You can come in whatever questions you had, whatever concerns you had, anything you're feeling anxious about, you can hear them talk about it and kind of clear that up for you. And you know, speak to them one-on-one like that as well, which is why we let them students come into the Zoom and, you know, unmute themselves, ask questions in the chat. A lot of lawyers so far have even given their email addresses so that students can contact them at a future date. And I mean, I go to every single session and it's been helpful for me to hear from them as well, which is exactly what I wanted to do for other students. And I'm really happy that that's, you know, that's possible now and that people are actually benefiting from this.
That's great. And I guess so far you have a number of people involved. So can tell sort of how you have already some growth there in different volunteers in different capacities. And if anyone's listening, certainly how can they get more involved in pre-law shadowers?
Yeah, so it started off as just me, and it was like a one-person team. But the way that it was growing so quickly, I think now we're at 1,000 something followers. I don't know the exact number, but it grew really quickly in the first week or two, and I immediately realized I need a team. And a lot of people were messaging the Instagram account saying they want to get involved, which again made me extremely happy. So we did kick off applications, and then I conducted some interviews. And we finally kind of finalized a amazing team. They're all pre-law students. They're all amazing individuals. And they all are doing different programs, which is one of my favorite things about having this open to different university members and different students across Canada. We have, you know, management majors, marketing majors, but they all have the interest of potentially pursuing a career in the legal field. And the fact that it's open to any university, a lot of the volunteers and the exec members that we have, they get to network with each other, whereas they wouldn't normally get that opportunity. I go to UFT, for example, and I'm getting to meet people who go to McMaster, who go to University of Guelph, who go to UBC, for example, which is amazing because we're all pre-law students. We have this one thing in common that kind of brings us together. So right now we have, I believe, 18 or 19 exec members. We're in the process of hiring another one. And, you know, if you take a look at our Instagram page, for those of you that are watching, we do hire quite often. Again, with the way that this is growing, we do need quite a lot of help, and there's a lot of people interested. And so I want to be able to provide those opportunities to them. It's a great way to get involved and get yourself out there, to network with other people and get the experience that you need. We have various different teams. We have a legal outreach team, and they do kind of contacting legal professionals and, maintaining like a professional contact with them. So they do emails, they do phone calls with them. And then we have a session coordinator team. They're the people who host the sessions. And then our research team, they research into the legal topics that we post about, which we will be having like a topic of the week post every single Thursday. So our first one will be today. And then they also will be working on a legal blog, the research team. And then we have a social media and marketing team, and they're amazing. They're the ones that do all of the posts that, you see on our page. And they kind of maintain all of that, which is great because Instagram is kind of where we started. And so it's nice to see that picking up even more. And so I just think that the team that I have right now, I would not be where I am right now, and the growth that I have right now and the organization has would not be possible without these guys. And so I would love to expand it even more. And I'm sure there will be so many more opportunities, and we'll always post about them on our Instagram page. So if anyone is interested, you can just stay tuned for that.
Perfect. Now, I guess you kicked it off. You've had a few different people in, I think starting with Sujith, I believe was the first one, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe the second one. I've had on here before, and certainly very entertaining and passionate about the criminal justice system here in Canada. So what was it like? Now, I know you didn't host every single one, but you attended them. Maybe we could start with just something like Sujith. I know you have Kyla on about 45 minutes, who's another favorite here, a very entertaining on social media there about IRP law there in BC. But what was it like, I guess, getting that opportunity to talk to a professional, and what was how did it go, and in terms of what feedback did you get from the pre-law students that joined?
So before I answer this question, I kind of want to go a little bit backwards into when I first contacted. I'll start with Sujith in general. He was the first lawyer that, like I said, that I followed on Instagram, and then the first lawyer that I emailed. And I remember being so nervous when I sent that email, thinking, oh, he's probably not going to read it. Lawyers are such busy people, and he's a criminal defense lawyer. Like, he'd probably see this and be like, whatever. Not on his character, but just because I was doubting the organization, doubting the idea, and doubting that anyone would be interested. He responded, I think, in an hour, and was so excited about it. And then from there, I think I emailed him like back in March, and then fast forward to May when the session happened, which was last week. I was the one that hosted that one. I was still extremely nervous, thinking, like, I hope nothing goes wrong, but it went really well. I think the really good thing about him is that he's still very young, and he knows how to appeal to students, pre-law students. And so a lot of people enjoyed that session, people who attended live, and then also those that watched the recording. They messaged us, said that, he's a really great guy, he's really funny. He was really friendly and really easily approachable as well. And like you said, he's really passionate about the justice system. And that's something that I think really inspires students, especially myself. The fact that why he wanted to become a lawyer, why criminal defense in general, and kind of what he does day to day. There's like a driving, passionate force behind that. And that kind of shows us as well that, if you have that interest, if you have that passion, you can totally do it. And one thing I really enjoyed about hearing him speak, as well as hearing Aaron O'Rourke, who we had, I think it was yesterday or the day before, is that they're very honest and they're very straightforward about everything. Even Jolene from the Legal Learning Center, who we also had a couple of days ago, they tell you if they didn't do well on the LSAT the first time, they tell you that, and that makes everything seem so real. And then it's easier to connect with these lawyers and with these legal professionals, because it kind of reminds students that everybody makes mistakes and they're human, that they haven't had a clear journey of success all the way through. They've had their ups and downs as well. And with Sujith, he talked about that extensively. And I think a lot of students loved that about him and loved that about the session. His honesty and the fact that they were hearing, someone who's now successful in their career let them know that, he wasn't always this good, and it kind of got better with time, with practice, and with believing in himself. So That's what I love about going to these sessions. And I love seeing people in the chat, like students kind of commenting on what he's saying, like privately messaging me as well, saying it's going great. And then the messages that come afterwards, we do have a highlights on our Instagram page and our stories of just students that have messaged us, giving positive feedback about the organization or about the sessions. And that to me is my favorite part about the entire organization. If I had to pick one thing, it's seeing the fact that all the hard work that the execs are putting in, it's all worth it. And that the vision that I had, 2 months ago, like people are enjoying that, and they're giving a lot of positive feedback. And I love being in those sessions and kind of feeling that kind of environment and that mood.
Now you mentioned some other things there, so perhaps you could touch on this again there in terms of now that you've started, you've had some sessions and continue to do so, and I think you're aiming to have about 3 to 4 a week, spread out through the week, and then you have the 4 coordinators there. So I guess they each kind of get a turn maybe once a week to host. But you've looked at now adding something today, right, in terms of sharing some news as well as a blog there. I mean, is there any other ideas you have that other pre-law students have come to you and said, look, maybe we should do this? I hear people might be interested in. What have you kind of heard, or what are you planning on doing in response to now that you have all this growth?
I'm actually very glad that you asked that, because I can show you really quickly. I have an entire weekly planner, and for the next few days, all I have are meetings to talk about things that we're planning. I'll just like quickly show it because it's not very neat, but it's a lot. It's a lot of scribble, a lot of random words and writing, and call this person and like schedule this meeting. So one idea that we do have, like I said, is what we're starting today, which is going to be a topic of the week. And we'll be doing different kind of informational series. One of them is we're calling, all you need to know about your dream law school. We're going to be featuring a different law school every single week, and kind of like a one-stop quick information type post where you can swipe through, find out about admissions, what's the average LSAT score, average GPA, things like that. How much are like the fees for like 1 year, for example? What are the different programs? Do they have specialized, combined programs, things like that. And the first law school we're going to be doing, which is just because I go to UFT. And so I've been to sessions about this, and I know more about UFT Faculty of Law. And so that's the first one that we're going to be posting today at 6 p.m. actually. And then we're going to be continuing that. We also have ideas for doing posts about different fields of law. So after speaking to legal professionals in that field and also doing our own research within the research team, we're posting so students can learn more about different fields of law that they could be potentially interested in, potentially want to pursue. So that's one thing that we're doing. And then in terms of ideas that we have kind of in the works that we're still talking about, we do have a website being made like as we speak, which I'm really excited about because I think it just makes things a lot more official. And I've seen your website. I think it's amazing to have a website that kind of has everything in one place. Links to your sessions and links to your guest speaker series, your highlights, everything, more of like about the organization type thing. So that has been taking up a lot of time because it's a lot of back and forth. What looks good, what colors don't look good, what font looks good. But it's something I'm really, really excited about and really passionate about. I always envisioned a website, but had no idea how that would work out. Though we did hire a really amazing webmaster who's very experienced in what he does. And I'm really excited to publish that. The kind of soft date that we have for the website is the 25th of May. But of course, that depends on like the creative process and if everything kind of goes to plan. And then in terms of things that we are just simply talking about and we need to do a lot more research on. So I'll mention it, but I'll say it with not a guarantee it's going to happen, but I'm really, really hoping that it works out. And if people are watching and they have ideas or they know kind of how we can go about this, then like we would love to hear about that. So we're thinking of introducing a kind of like a mentorship program as well, where we can connect law students to pre-law students, or maybe even legal professionals that are interested. It could maybe be like a once a week meeting type thing, and kind of staying connected so that pre-law students can talk to a specific person about their concerns, and that might be easier for them to have a one-on-one connection with them. And then we're also thinking potentially of starting a podcast series where maybe it's just the execs or maybe just pre-law students in general, because I know we have our sessions with legal professionals, but maybe like a podcast series where we talk about kind of more pre-law specific things, kind of maybe things like, test anxiety or, imposter syndrome, not really feeling like maybe I'm not supposed to go into law school, maybe I'm not supposed to pursue law, and kind of doubting yourself, things that are more personal that will really connect with pre-law students, aside from the virtual shadowing sessions that we are hosting. We also want to do Instagram story takeovers where we can get a law student to kind of show us a day in their life and kind of post on our Instagram account stories. And at the end, maybe do a Q&A with them. And we want to do that with LSAT students as well, people that are currently studying for the June LSAT. We're trying to get them to kind of show like a day in their life study routine for people who are potentially going to be taking it really soon as well. So we do have a lot of ideas. We get a lot of students messaging us ideas as well. So a lot of the ideas that we have are compiled from what students have been telling us, as well as what the exec team have been working on, which again is what I love about this organization, the fact that it really is student-led, but not just the volunteers that are part of it, but even students who come to our sessions.
And it's great. I know when I was a student, I was always big on being involved and doing things, certainly in law school. So it's student-led, and you're saying it's completely volunteer. So like, even the webmaster that you hired there, everyone's volunteering their time for this. Is that the case? And I guess in terms of what you're doing, and certainly we were talking about this before, with there are a number of other organizations, and I've had people from like Law School Life and Beyond and Legally Bright and different people, exceptional work again in terms of providing opportunities, advice, blogs, mentorship, things like that. Have you looked into kind of connecting with other people there and seeing ways that you can collaborate and find some opportunities for, again, pre-law students to look at current law students and things like that?
So as we talked about earlier before the live, there's a lot of organizations that do similar things. There is pre-law specific organizations, and then there's organizations that are run by current law students, which, I follow them myself. I've been following them before I started pre-law shadowers. And so the idea of collaborating them is something that I'm very excited about. I can't speak too much about this because we're still in the process of confirming dates and confirming like scheduling all of this, but I have reached out to Law School Life and Beyond, for example. Ryan and Joey, I think they were on your page as well. They're amazing, and I'm trying my best to, we're all trying to kind of get a date and get something confirmed. I would love to have them come and speak about their organization as well, just so that students can kind of find, the maximum number of opportunities for them. As someone that also utilizes these resources, I think it would be great if they were kind of given more insight into what else is available besides pre-law shadowers. And then Legally Bright, I will be contacting them as well. I think they do a mentorship program already, which I think is amazing. And so, I was thinking, do I want to do something similar, or maybe we could just collaborate with them, or maybe we can give our students, like pre-law shadower student can kind of like move them to Legally Bright and then their law students and kind of do like a joint thing with them. But none of this has been discussed yet. And so there are just, ideas in my head that potentially we could work on. So I think collaborating with them is a really good idea that I would totally be interested in.
Yeah, I think it's great because certainly in the legal profession, you have like a never-ending chain of mentorship, right? I mean, it goes from super retired maybe judges, being able to mentor senior counsel, and senior counsel mentoring junior counsel, and junior counsel articling students and paralegal students, and then to third-year law students, first-year law students, pre-law students, even high school students, I think, as well. I mean, there's interest goes in some cases all the way back until people are like very young. You mentioned like 13 in your case, right, of interest in law. So I think it's always great to have those different opportunities. Maybe we could talk a little bit about you there in terms of your interest in law, coming back from there, and then getting here to Canada. I mean, I'm not sure when you moved over here, and how did you carry over that passion? And you mentioned the things like the Charter of Rights there really appealing to you, but what was that journey like, and in coming over here and getting into new country, and now pursuing an interest that you had there from a young age?
All right, so I always get really happy to talk about this because I was, like I said, I was born and raised in Canada. That's basically my home, even though I live here now. That's like my home away from home. And so I think the biggest thing that I noticed when we moved here, so we did move here, I believe in 2017, but we were turning citizens. So we had been coming to Canada before that. So I wasn't entirely new to the country. But in terms of permanently living here again, that was in 2017. I think I was in grade 10 when that happened. So I came right in the middle of high school. And immediately, one thing I noticed was that in terms of the way that school is kind of approached here, it's very different to what it's like in the Middle East. So I can't speak for all schools in the Middle East, but the one I went to was it was a British school. So it was, we got all of our board exams, everything, our curriculum was from the UK. But even then, I noticed that there was a lot of push on math and sciences and English. But we didn't even have a law class because it was Middle Eastern law and they didn't really know if they should teach that law or the UK law. And it was like, it was just really confusing. And even other, humanitarian and kind of social science classes didn't really exist there. If I had stayed there, I would have been doing my IGCSEs or my A levels, which is the British curriculum, and I probably would have been doing sciences, which to think about today, I would have been really unhappy. I wasn't bad at sciences, I just did not care for it. And or I would have been doing IT, which, great fields to go into, but that's not really what I wanted in my heart. Like I said, those debate extracurricular things that I was doing, and the way that my personality and my brain kind of worked, that wasn't for me. So one thing I immediately noticed when we first moved here and I went into high school here was I'm like, oh, there's law classes. It's literally called Canadian law. There's civics and careers in grade 10, which teaches you about the government, how everything kind of works. That's where I first heard about the Charter of Rights. And, being from kind of outside of the country, those things really interested me. Canadian law was completely a foreign concept to me. I was not familiar with the government or with politicians or anything like that. I didn't even know how the voting process worked. And I think teaching myself all of that and kind of getting familiar with that is kind of what also kickstarted my passion for this. And I just love how over here there are a lot more opportunities. You don't have to go into just sciences and math. There's so many careers that you can go into besides law, and also a lot of like non-conventional careers. And that's because of, I think, the way that school was set up there compared to here. And in terms of kind of settling here, it wasn't too difficult, like I said, because you're returning citizens. And if anything, I really enjoyed the school aspect of this. As as lame as this potentially may sound, like I really enjoyed school. And I enjoyed kind of learning and I enjoyed my classes. And I always worked hard for them because I cared about what I was taking. I got to take anthropology and sociology, psychology when I first moved here, which was amazing and so foreign to me. I took Canadian history, where we talked about, things like the Indigenous rights, which I had no idea was an issue when I was in Qatar. So I was exposed to a lot more things when I was here. A lot of legal issues that when you live outside of Canada, you think everything is perfect. And you kind of think that there's no kind of legal issues, there's no human rights issues, everything's going great. And then you come here and you see what's happening, and you see that social justice issues exist everywhere. And researching into that, kind of writing essays about that, learning about that in school, that's what made me want to kind of pursue a career in law even more. At first, I wanted to kind of go into immigration law just because, being a child of immigrants myself, I've seen the process. I know how, the toll that it can have on immigrants. I know how difficult it can be to have to apply for citizenship when you barely know the language, for example, or when everything is so unfamiliar to you. And we had Erin Awoke a couple of days ago, who is an employment and immigrations lawyer, and it was so nice to hear from her and for the younger me to hear what that's really like and what that field kind of consists of. And now that I'm in university, the fact that I'm able to do, not a science program, which is what I always thought I would end up having to settle for, just because universities there as well, they're quite limited in what they offer. Again, I can't speak for every Middle Eastern country, but I can speak for Qatar. And then moving here, the fact that I can major in political science and I'm learning about, the government, I'm learning about politics as well as the law. And then my minor in public law, but then I also get to learn about, world issues and global conflicts and whatnot, because I have another minor in international development studies. I think I'm exposed to so much more here, which is why I'm very grateful that we ended up, permanently moving here again. I think the journey just showed me and kind of confirmed for me that I do want a career in the legal field, no matter if it's a lawyer or what else.
Now, certainly, your first year of university was quite like no other, and maybe you can share with my students that are listening, because they've had pretty much the same experience, and what kind of worked for you, what didn't work for you, what challenges did you face, and what are some things that you got through those challenges?
I think definitely the fact that it was my first year was really difficult, because usually you look forward to orientation week and frosh, but everything was online. And I would say that it had its pros and cons. Like, major pros was the fact that, I could be in my pajamas and I could be eating in class and no one would really know. In my classes, we didn't have to turn our cameras on. And so it didn't matter what I looked like. It didn't matter, if I was having a snack while I was studying or whatever. It was, I think, the comfort and the convenience of online classes, something that I personally enjoyed. And being able to be in my own space. Like I said, I'm not extremely extroverted to the point where, being in public settings with a lot of students in a lecture hall in your first year is obviously very nerve-wracking. And so it was nice to kind of start university in a familiar, comfortable space. But the downside is that now that nerve-wracking being in a lecture hall is just delayed. And I will still have to go through that when we return to in-person, except I'll be a second year student who has no idea where their classes are and has no idea what the campus is like. That's something that I think is going to really suck. But in terms of what worked for me and what didn't work for me, I noticed immediately that I had to be really, really organized. And I noticed the difference immediately between high school and university, that huge jump that everyone talked about. I always thought was exaggerated, but it isn't. And I mean, like I showed you, I have my weekly planner. I've had that since September for both semesters. I have like 2 different calendars on my laptop. I have sticky notes like all over my desk where, telling me what I need to do. I have reminders on my phone. So in terms of keeping track of deadlines and everything, that was never really too much of an issue with me. And I really had to plan ahead. I'm sure your students are a lot older than me. And so they have even more experience than I do in terms of planning their time, with assignments, giving yourself a decent amount to, work on that. So with essays, for example, high school essays, you could totally still do it in a couple of days and still get a pretty good mark. And I immediately realized university, you can't do that. I mean, maybe some students can, but I'm not that kind of person. I need to set at least for one essay, I'll start 2 weeks in advance and I'll do 3 different drafts. And go back and edit and edit and edit until I submit. And because of that, I had to learn to plan ahead and really focus on time management. And like you said, you were a very involved student in terms of extracurriculars, and I'm honestly the same. I was a part of a lot of campus clubs while also trying to do online school. And so I think the thing that was the most difficult for me was kind of checking in on yourself and mental health, because you don't really get time to plug off. Everything is online and on your phone, on your laptop. So even when I was closing my laptop, I would get notifications that my prof emailed me or something, or emailed grades are out or something. So even when I was on my phone thinking I'm, talking to friends or this is my downtime, I was never really done with school. And staring at a screen kind of for majority of the day was also really difficult. You're in classes in the morning and then you have to then work on assignments online. And then I had meetings for my clubs in the evening online on Zoom. And that I think it's an overkill. It's an internet overkill where it's too much for you. And I was not very good at this. And so I hope that people watching, if we continue to be online, people that are taking summer courses right now, I hope that we've all kind of learned how to deal with it. But it was something that I definitely struggled with, where my routine, especially being in lockdown, was very school, laptop, phone, go to sleep, and just to keep repeat. And it can get really lonely, even though you're online and you're talking to all these people and you're texting these group chats and you're on these Zoom calls. Nothing can beat, being in person. And that was kind of hard to do because, when you think of your university experience, you think of making groups of friends, going to club meetings together, and sitting in classes together, getting lunch together. And so that for me was something that I think I struggled with. But thankfully, this last semester, things kind of picked up more. I think I learned that it's okay and that everyone's going through this. And again, learning how to manage my time better. And then even right now with pre-law shadowers, everything is still completely online. And I still struggle to make sure that I don't feel burnt out. I think a lot of students felt really, really burnt out this year. That's why I didn't end up taking any summer courses, which I know a lot of students are, because they want to take advantage of the fact that it's online. I think I was the opposite. And I was like, oh, it's online. I'm not doing it. I just had 2 semesters of online. I think I need to like log off in terms of like academics. And I can't do that anymore. Otherwise, I knew I was going to be burnt out. And then in March, I had the pre-law shadows idea. So even though I'm not taking summer courses, I'm still on my laptop. I'm sure, as someone who's also, I bet you're emailing and you're contacting on phone calls and having to, organize all of this, it can get really difficult. And I get my email notifications on my phone. I get the Instagram DMs on my phone. And so I think a couple of days ago, I had to kind of sit back and tell my execs, like, I'm only going to be doing work until I think I said only between 12 to 6 p.m. And then after 6, I'm muting all notifications and that's it. Like that's me for the rest of the evening to myself. Because otherwise I found myself kind of writing emails and scheduling send them later at like 2 a.m. because I felt like I had to do this work. I had to work on this. And it's online. Like it's so convenient. Why am I just sitting here? Why don't I just start doing something else, being productive? When in reality, it's just giving yourself a break. With online school, you can feel like because it's convenient, because it's right there. Oh, you saw the notification on your phone. Okay, you might as well reply. You might as well open that email. You're already there. When in reality, it's just stepping back and being like, I don't have time for this, or I'll choose to do this tomorrow because right now I feel tired or because I already had a busy day. I'm still struggling with that. And it's something that I think will just come with time. I guess if you're kind of an overachiever or a perfectionist, then like online school has really, really burnt you out. And I hope that people are getting a chance now, maybe in the summer, to relax a little bit, catch up on sleep. I know I've been catching up on a lot of sleep and kind of making up for how tiring these past 2 semesters have been.
So you touched on it there, and it's certainly something we've talked about here for the last year quite a bit with the various lawyers, paralegals, and other professionals and students on here about mental health and making sure you can take care of it. In terms of the legal profession, often there's a lot of burnout that you've alluded to, and stress and anxiety and all the related things that come with that. So you mentioned obviously just turning off the notifications or just turning your phone off or whatever. I mean, is there anything else that you found during this pandemic that has really worked for you to kind of keep your mental health in check?
I think asking for help really, really made a difference. Just admitting that it's too much for you right now and you're overwhelmed. I have a thing where I kind of, when I'm feeling overwhelmed or anxious, I'll isolate myself from people. I have no idea why I do it. I know a lot of people are also like this, where for some reason you don't want to tell people that you're not okay, or that you might need some extra support, or you might need some more like socialization, or you might need that circle of friends more than ever. And then what I found when I kind of got through my, I can ask for help, was that a lot of things that I was stressed about or that I was worried about, other people can sometimes help you, whether even if it's just kind of ranting about an assignment to another student or a friend, talking about how stressed you are to someone else, it really, really helps. You can't keep everything to yourself, and you're only human. You can't experience all of your lows alone, and it's okay to let someone else know. And so I think getting my family involved, I can say right now that my sister has been like my biggest support system, where like she doesn't live at home anymore, but I'll FaceTime her and just be like, oh, my day was horrible, or I had a lot of work to do, or even today with pre-law shadowers, for example, I still FaceTime her and will be like, oh, I just had a session, or I'm nervous about this, or I have so much work to do. And a lot of the times I notice like people in your circle, they will offer to help. Sometimes my sister will kind of, she offered to do some interviews with me, for example, or she said, okay, I'll do some emails with you. Don't worry about it. Or whenever she's coming over, it's not like I sit here and I'm sad. She helps me with a lot of the work that I have to do. But if I stayed quiet and I didn't tell anyone, then on the outside, it looks like I'm okay. And it looks like, oh, well, she's managing. But a lot of students are not okay. And people that are watching, ask for help, and also check in on your other friends and check in on, people in your life, and even legal professionals. Like, I know Sujit was talking about how COVID, it can end up working a lot of hours in the week. But what he's done is kind of limited it. And, he set aside, I'm not going to work. And, at this time I'm done. And I'm only going to work these number of hours a week. Otherwise, you are going to be extremely burnt out and it's going to affect your grades. But most importantly, it's going to affect your mental health and kind of your livelihood. And so the biggest advice I would have is tell people that you're not okay.
Now, Aisha, certainly you've come quite a long way so quickly here. And what are the next? I mean, we talked about for pre-law shadowers there before, but for you, completing your first year now, I mean, you kind of have maybe a better idea of what you've done in the last couple of months of a path that you want to kind of map out for your next few years there to I'm presuming wanting to go to law school. I don't know if you've kind of started thinking about which ones and stuff like that, but maybe your own dream posts there will kind of help guide you. What are your plans here for the near future?
So I'm really careful saying this because I know that anything can change and that I don't want to make a set in stone plan this early because I'm still learning, and it's completely okay if what I say right now in this interview and something else that's better for me ends up happening. But right now the plan is that I'm hoping that in the summer of my third year I can take my LSAT. I've already been attending kind of sessions about that. It's still pretty early, but just so that I have an idea if I even want to take the LSAT, if I even want to go to law school. And right now, after my first year, after also starting this, speaking to a couple of lawyers, attending a couple sessions, I think I still do want to do that. Like I said, summer of my third year, and then apply to law school my fourth year. And in terms of law schools that I want to go to, so like I said, complete bias in posting UFT first. But the UFT Faculty of Law, that's kind of where I would really like to go. But then I also have a lot of interest in the Osgoode Law School as well at York. And in terms of like how badly I want to go into any of those, I would just be happy to get into any law school. I would just be grateful that I'm even in a law school and that I'm finally doing what younger Aisha always wanted myself to do. And in terms of like fields of law or anything like that, I have no clue, which is why I go to these sessions, which is why we have, lawyers, paralegals, people practicing in different areas of law, because I'm hoping that attending these, I'll have a better idea. And by the time I'm in law school, I'll know for sure, based on my experiences, my internships, my articling, where I want to do my work. But law school is still in the picture, but I've the more I kind of have learned about paralegals, which again, I had no idea what a paralegal was before I moved to Canada. The more I'm like, I would actually also be interested in this because I feel like they do a lot of the work that lawyers also do, and they're still legal professionals. They're still in the field, and they're very well, they're very well knowledgeable of the field as well and of the law. And I mean, the perk of that I see is that, it's slightly shorter and I can be kind of practicing earlier. Or I could even do paralegal, then go into law school later. I don't have a strict, I have to be a lawyer by this age, or I have to be having these degrees at this age. And I know that I'm someone who loves school, at least right now. I really hope that like my like passion for school and like learning does not kind of deteriorate. I always hear older people telling me that, not in a mean way, but just because of their experiences, where, I was like that too in my first year. I was super motivated as well. And then they kind of burnt out and it just kind of went away. So I really hope that does not happen for me. But, even if I would love to be a paralegal and then also a lawyer and then kind of have, multiple, forms of experience and different pathways that I can take. And then, I don't know, I think it would be really nice to start my own firm as well. I've had a lot of lawyers come on that have started their own firms and talked about their experiences with that. And that to me is always so inspiring. Or even if it's something like setting up like what you're doing, like you're an experienced lawyer, you're a paralegal instructor as well. And you also now do something that's kind of, on the side, but that's helping so many students. And so, being, or like Jolene from the Legal Learning Center, where she's kind of counseling pre-law students and current law students, using what she has learned to help other people. I think I would also be really interested in like that. So my options are very open, and I'm purposely keeping it very open so that I'm not disappointed if one of them doesn't work out.
And years from now, you can always go back. Hopefully, it's still online and compare what you said today to what path you end up on down the road. So I know you have Kyla coming on in about 10 minutes, so I don't want to keep you any longer. So thank you so much, Ayisha, here for taking the time, talking about your own journey here and getting to Canada and starting an organization in your first year. I mean, I think, as you mentioned, I mean, there are certainly organizations within the various colleges and university undergraduate programs like pre-law programs, but I don't think there's as any that kind of brings everyone together, which is important in a pandemic about those social connections you mentioned, isolation, that it's a lot harder to make online for people that have those kinds of interests. And I think it's great what you're doing, and I wish you all the best in continuing it and growing your team and providing more resources for pre-law students as they look into making that journey alongside with you into going into law school and certainly beyond. And certainly, I guess on Sunday, I'll kind of be able to reverse roles. I don't know if it'd be you hosting or someone else, but I'm glad to go and talk with your group there at, I believe it's 4 o'clock. I should double check my calendar on Sunday there. So looking forward to that as well. I know you shared a lot of advice there before, but perhaps maybe you can end with some final words of wisdom for my paralegal students and anyone else listening, as well as, where they can follow you on Pre-Law Shadowers and any other information with your organization. So thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm really excited to, like you said, reverse the roles. And it is this Sunday at 4 p.m. I won't be hosting, but I will definitely be there. I'm really interested to hear more about your journey and your experience as well. And just in terms of like a quick thing that I just want to say at the end, I've had a lot of people that are surprised that I'm in my first year, or I mean now starting my second year, and not every support that I've gotten has been positive, and not every feedback has been positive. I've been very positive during this interview, talking about how great everything has been. There's a lot of people that kind of doubt what I'm doing, or think that it's just a phase because I'm young. And I just kind of want to say, like, to your students that are watching, or to any pre-law student, that people are going to doubt you no matter what you do. Even if you show them the most amazing thing ever, they're still going to find something to say no matter what. And not everyone can be happy for you. And that's something that I really have to learn to not think about and not let that bother me. It can be very easy when people older than you, or people who, you kind of look up to, can say things like that. And it just, don't let anything get into your head, because if you have that passion, you have that interest, maybe your path won't be the conventional route, but you will still get there somehow. Even if you take years and years off, if you still wanted to go into the legal field, you will end up there one way or the other. And I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And so, which is why I say that I'm okay with the fact that what I say today might not be, when I look back, I might be like, oh, wow, that none of that happened. Or I thought I was going to start my own firm, but it didn't happen. And it's one of those things where it didn't happen for a reason. And just be grateful for the experiences and opportunities that you're getting, regardless of what the outcome is. And please believe in yourself, because if you don't, then what anyone else says to you is going to affect you tremendously, and you don't want to stop what you're doing. I was almost going to stop pre-law shadowers in the beginning because of what I was hearing. And I am so glad that I didn't, and I didn't believe what people were saying, and I ended up kind of proving them wrong. And I hope that for students that already feel vulnerable and already kind of doubt themselves naturally, I hope that you all kind of find that passion, that belief in yourself, because being your own biggest supporter, no one can ever kind of bring you down or come in the way of your success.
Perfect, and certainly a lot of wealth of knowledge that it doesn't matter. Age is nothing but a number. So don't let that kind of discourage you as well, and then keep doing it and keep having that drive and that passion. And certainly there are a lot of other pre-law students and anyone really interested in law who are benefiting from what you're doing. So again, there's a lot of room for everyone to keep bringing opportunities and resources especially in an online kind of world that we're in right now. So I wish you all the best. And again, send my regards there to Kyla. I'm always a big fan of hers and all the things that she does. And I think all of your guests are in for a real treat if she's anything like when I spoke to her. It's going to take care, Aisha.
About that. Thank you so much for having me. And I really feel honored to be here today.
Thank you so much, Aisha. Have a great day.
Thank you for your messages in the chat. I've been reading them. I wasn't able to respond, but they're so sweet. Thank you so much.
No problem. Have a wonderful day. Thanks, JP. Bye, everyone.